You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast, the Halloween franchise, the return of Laurie Strode.
Welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to look into the horror films, dissecting them one screen legend and franchise at a time. Our podcast subject for this episode is dedicated to two of the Halloween franchise films, Halloween H20 and Halloween Resurrection. In order to successfully do this, we need a team of horror aficionados who will form the surgical team each episode. So let me introduce you. First up is yours truly, Paul Farrell, lead surgeon and host for the series of the podcast. Joining me each episode at the operating theatre of the Halloween franchise discussions is Chief Surgical Technician Ben Skinner.
Hello.
And you will literally get into the guts of the subject or thereabouts. We'll see how we go. So let's have a look. Halloween H20, 20 years later, would pick up the franchise storyline again with Laurie Strode and her son John, 20 years after the original film was released and only 6 years after Curse of Michael Myers. It would take about $55 million in box office receipts. And then Halloween Resurrection would pick up from the events that followed in H20, where Laurie Strode is now in an asylum. It would be geared around a live internet horror show within the old Myers house, where Michael Myers lurks and runs riot. The film would see a then popular with the kids Busta Rhymes as a means to raise interest around the film. In this podcast, I would like to look at the two movies with a focus on the key characters and themes that run throughout. So with that in mind, Ben, first up...
It's hard to keep quiet when you drop the Busta Rhymes factoid.
Woo!
Kids love him, apparently. What?
Apparently, in the day, apparently.
Can't remember that happening. No. Obviously, I wasn't with the cool crowd.
No, crazy times. So look, let's break this down. So obviously, the elephant in the room is the first bit we're going to talk about: the rise and fall of Laurie Strode.
Yeah,
across those
We're going right to that.
We're going straight in, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that at least she gets the long hair.
Her long hair back.
Yeah. Even
if
it's most likely a wig. Yeah. Because that is how we first met Laurie Strode.
We did.
Look.
Late 70s Buffon
going on. It's going to be hard for me to remain calm while we're talking about these films. In particular, that opening scene in Resurrection. Like,
yeah.
Why did she come back for that?
I think she always wanted to be killed off from the franchise anyway. That's why she didn't agree to do any more to begin with. She said, I'm too committed on other projects. Just kill off my character. Yeah. So
H20 was obviously they must have offered her a fair bit of money, and Resurrection was like, all right, just promise me you'll kill me in the first 5 minutes.
That's it exactly.
And then just the way that she goes out, I just thought it was weird.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk. Let's go back to H20 first, and then we'll lead up to her demise. So in H20 we pick up the story as mentioned 20 years after Michael's killing spree in Haddonfield, 1978. Laurie is now the headmistress of Hillcrest Academy, a boarding school where her son John resides. We learned that she faked her own death in a car accident, a knowing nod to comments made in Halloween for the return of Michael Myers. However, despite the original story treatment involving mention of Laurie's daughter Jamie, the writers removed any mention of her in the final treatment, thus rendering parts 4, 5 and 6 as obsolete and not part of the official canon.
Right.
A move that would scorn the wrath of certain hardcore fans of the franchise. Apparently this was to allow more room for Laurie's character to breathe on screen for H20. The majority of the movie takes place in said school as Myers goes in search of his blood kind, killing off a couple of teenagers along the way. Laurie tries to prevent her son being part of that number and is able to get him and his girlfriend off campus so that she can deal with Myers herself. The confrontation leads to Laurie stabbing Michael several times and will continue if not for the reappearance of Ronnie, the security guard, aka LL Cool J.
Ronnie.
And Laurie clearly has a lot of pent up aggression to release here. Not content with that though, in the aftermath, Laurie steals the ambulance containing Myers' body, whereby He does his usual shtick, comes back to life. Myers is thrown through the windshield, where Laurie then tries to run him down. The ambulance ends up careering off the road, pinning Myers against a fallen tree. He reaches out to Laurie, but she duly cuts off his head with an axe.
But she doesn't, though. That's the thing.
Wait, we haven't got there first.
No, but
so thoughts on like
just how angry I am about this.
So let's talk about what it meant for the character Laurie to come back to the franchise first and foremost, and because obviously like we've been talking about 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
What does that mean though? Because obviously Sam Loomis is no longer around because of Donald Pleasant's passing away. So they need to kind of re-inject something back into this franchise. You need to have your polar opposites, and so they obviously, as you said, flashed a lot of cash in order to get JLC back.
Yeah.
What do we think around that? And
I mean, she's good in this film. Like you realize how much she's been missed. Like she's the scream queen. It's like and she's
the
effective,
original scream queen.
And she's damaged, and she's a functioning alcoholic, and all this kind of stuff.
So in that sense, like you can understand why they chose to kind of ditch the whole Jamie Lloyd kind of storyline in order to let in their excuse to let the character breathe. But are they also doing a disservice to the franchise by saying, hey, by the way, 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah,
technically
they are shit though. Like really, I don't think
it's true.
In our podcast we didn't really give them glowing reviews. We thought the 4 was okay.
4 was alright, yeah.
But I think that
5 is a turkey, and 6 is apparently better on, as we said, looking at the producer cut, which we haven't seen yet.
So if it wasn't 20, if they were part of the canon, it wouldn't be 20 years later. It would be 20 years later from Halloween, the first Halloween.
Yeah,
but not 20 years since Michael Myers had been seen.
But it's 20 years later since we saw Laurie Strode.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering, they kind of screwed themselves because they were so far along. Like, what year was Halloween 6 set? We were pretty far into the 90s by then.
96 is when it came out. So like,
but what year was it set?
Well, it must be around the same time frame because Tommy is older. You know, so our good friend Stephen Rudd, Stephen Rudd.
That's right, Paul Stephen Rudd. That's the only thing I remember about that film. But yeah, I can kind of see why they did it because it's just a lot cleaner to say Halloween 2 was the last. That was the last appearance of Michael Myers, and this was 20 years since. Yeah. I don't remember this being called Halloween H20 20 years later.
Yeah, it was.
In Australia.
Oh, seriously? Oh, it wasn't in the UK. Definitely wasn't in the UK.
I just remember watching it on VHS, and I at no point did I... But then again, and this is... I'm ashamed to admit, I saw this before I saw Halloween. Like, I think it came out of that slasher craze of the 90s.
It's the whole Scream, the Scream kind of...
Yeah, so how far after Scream was this?
It was like the year after, I think.
It's quite close.
Because it was because Scream was 95.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? So this was... What did we say this was? This would be 90...
Very much. So this is like in that prime.
And it's also like Kevin Williamson at his height of his Scream playing kind of stuff. And hence why we get Michelle Williams...
Dawson's Creek, there's all sorts of crossovers happening. Exactly. Sarah Michelle Gellar is on like the... So what film is that from? We see
I Know
like,
What You Did Last Summer?
So that was another one coming out at the time.
That was 96, I think, that one.
Yeah.
Because that was like literally piggyback
just after Scream.
Scream.
Yeah. So there's lots of like late 90s teen angst going on here.
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett, apparently introducing Josh Hartnett, this was his first film, rocking the mid to late 90s hair.
Still looking like the skater kind of look that
when he was a thing. Yeah, Michelle Williams has still got the curly locks. She's basically her character from Dawson's Creek.
She still had the whole puppy fat face.
Yeah. She was 18
before. She was 18 then.
She was. I think she was one of the few Dawson's Creek actors who was like close to the age of her character.
Yeah.
Which is very rarely the case.
That's true.
Shows.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Cool. So let's look at that. I guess let's look at the journey as we continue into Resurrection for Laurie Strode then. So when we pick up the storyline again with Laurie, she's in, as I said, in a psychiatric ward. We learned that Myers had switched bodies with a paramedic, and it was this paramedic that Laurie beheaded. The result of her actions have led her to have a breakdown and thus placed her in said facility. Myers breaks into the ward where a final confrontation between him and Laurie occurs. Laurie appears to have the upper hand when she ensnares Myers into a trap, but her guilt gets the better of her when she starts to question if this really is Myers. In an attempt to pull off the mask, Myers turns the tables and stabs Laurie in the back, where she falls from the rooftop and to her death.
In slow motion.
In slow motion, yeah.
But for some reason, they chose to have her fall through like a tree foliage.
Yeah, that's right.
On the way down,
without actually impact on her body, just kind of disappears into the
that's right
into the leaves.
It's a weird way to do it.
Yeah.
And it also looks like she drops about 2 meters. The top down shot makes it look that.
That's right.
But the kiss.
She just stands up and goes, "Oh."
Did you think the kiss was a weird thing for her to do? Is that the kiss? Was that like the Godfather kiss of death, or what?
Or was it Empire Strikes Back?
What? We're just waiting for.
Kind of...
I love you, and Michael says back, "I know," but I do think such a famous character and such a beloved character to go out that way.
Yeah, like it's not.
But the whole like retconning the end of the previous film.
Yes,
it completely like renders that ending like obsolete now. And it's almost the equivalent of just saying like, you know, it was all a dream. Like the way that it's explained to
so true
to the nurse. It's just reeks of like some fucking hack writer. It's just like well, you know what we could do? What if like that wasn't Michael? Because they obviously have a problem. How do you come back from having your head chopped off?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so
it does
cynical.
Smack at that, isn't it? And then let's move quickly on to the actual main plot.
It almost makes you want to just stop watching the movie right then and there. And I kind of wish I had, because if I'd seen Resurrection in the cinema, I would have been.
Would you have walked out?
I would have.
Have you ever walked out of a movie?
No, as a principal thing, I kind of.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah. I'm a bit bad like that. I guess I'll stick with it to the bitter end, and then I'll raise my wrath.
Yeah.
I'll always watch a movie to its end. Have you ever slept in a movie?
Yeah, definitely dozed off a few times, yeah.
All right. So, yes, I think we're both in agreement that to write off a strong character like Laurie Strode in such a blink and you miss it kind of scenario.
Well, she had such a great
potential.
Because she was so great at the end of H20. Like, she gets some great scenes. And she goes up against Michael and there's like...
Well, that's exactly right. Because, as you said earlier, like, she's damaged. You know, we see how the impact that the first two movie events has had on her life. She's had to up sticks and recreate her world again, and we really feel that. And by the end of the movie, she's standing on her own 2 feet again.
She's strong.
Her.
Yeah, she's like channeling. She's got the Ripley, like the strong.
Yeah. That's true.
But then she's just once again she's like damaged and emotionally like scarred at the start of Resurrection. Yeah. It's just sad to see the character end that way because she's just like a shell of and it goes again. Like you can understand they just completely robbed that character of a great moment.
Song. Yeah, that's right. I agree. All right, let's shift tack it a little bit. Let's look at the director for H20. So that was Steve Miner, and the reason we mention him, or I mention him, is because he's known for covering Friday the 13th, Part 2 and 3, early in his career. Initially, John Carpenter was brought on as the director for H20, but allegedly asked for a fee of like $10 million, in part to compensate him for money he believed he was still owed from the original movie.
Ooh.
Right?
That's ugly.
When this was balked at by the film's financiers, Carpenter balked. But one can only wonder what Carpenter's vision would have looked like if he did continue with H20. Yeah. Since that time, though, so obviously, as I said, Steve Miner took on board, and since parts 2 and 3 of Friday the 13th, Miner's been had something of a fluctuating career, directing House, Soul Man, Warlock, and My Father the Hero. But there has to be something about his horror entries, though, as he has definitely had has a feeling for those kind of horror pieces that he's done. You know, following H20, he would direct Lake Placid as an example. So he definitely has an affiliation.
I like that movie. That movie was a piss take, though.
Yeah, it was.
That was like a tongue-in-cheek kind of.
But so was Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
They spawned... Friday the 13th Part 2 arguably is the one that spawned what we know of the kind of slasher tongue-in-cheek horror film that we know today.
But this one's straight up. A straight up horror. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it's interesting having him on board. You can definitely see that it's at the hands of somebody who knows the genre really well and knows how to kind of tick those boxes in order to entertain. So I thought I'd just throw a little nod to him. Someone else that you also picked up on was the Scream. I'm calling this section the Scream/Psycho connection.
Yeah.
So you've already noted how the similarities with Scream. Hot off the success of that, screenwriter Kevin Williamson was brought in an unofficial capacity to tweak some of the teen dialogue, and I would say I'd like to say it shows that you can see his dialogue.
Yeah, for sure.
Shine through.
I mean, straight away in the first scene where you see all four of the kids, it's like the archetypes are set. Like, she's like the good. Michelle Williams is like the good girl, kind of. Then you got the kid who just wants to just have sex with anything, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
He's just so mismatched with. I can't remember the actress's name, but he plays the parish kid in Jumanji. And he's one of those child actors that just hasn't grown up well. Like,
no.
Doesn't quite
I didn't
look
realise
right.
that was him, but now you've said that, I can see it.
And it's just not, he's meant to be this big Casanova kind of character. And it's just hard to believe that he would get laid at all.
That's so true. And as I mentioned, also is the addition of Janet Leigh making a cameo appearance, reuniting her with her daughter again, Jamie Lee Curtis. Janet would play Norma Watson and nod to her role in Psycho. She's even seen driving a 1957 Ford Custom 300, the same model of car she's seen driving in Psycho. So kind of like nice little nods to horror of yesteryear, and again going back to how Steve Miner knows his craft with the horror stuff. So all kind of little cool bits and pieces. But as you also mentioned, H2O has its fair share of good support players in Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, LL Cool J, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt cropping up.
That's funny. In my notes, I've written here LL Cool J, WTF, and then for Resurrection, I've written Busta Rhymes, WTF. It's just, I guess they're trying to cover all bases, and he is a bit of a comic relief.
He's the comic relief in this LL Cool J, yeah. But also, like, this was around the same time as Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, I thought it might have been. Yeah,
So like, he's where he weirdly survives. You think he's dead and survives in both of those films.
Yeah, well, because are they playing off the trope of like the black guy dies first?
I think so. Yeah.
But
I don't know.
He's the king. He's king of one-liners though. But it's just he's a security guard for this school. Like, what kind of school is this? It's just like
private school.
It looks like a prison or something. Like out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, I think it's set up that way.
And they live. So Laurie Strode lives there.
Yeah,
like, lives on
the campus.
Right. Okay. Because I just found the whole idea of like this like prison that they like. I didn't know they had private schools like that.
I don't know whether like that. If you look into that a bit deeper, whether because Laurie Strode is the head mistress, whether that's something she's enforced.
Yeah.
On the complex because of her insecurities about the fact that her brother someday come along and stalk and kill her.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, but yeah, good point. So Josh Hartnett, so he takes on the role of John, Laurie Strode's 17-year-old son. This would, as you said, be his feature film debut. Swiftly followed by Robert Rodriguez's The Faculty.
Oh, what a fucking Josh. Off to a great start.
And The Virgin Suicides.
Yeah. Bit of a change of pace there.
So, and his career would see him obviously go on to roles like Pearl Harbor, Black Hawk Down, 30 Days of Night, The Black Dahlia, Sin City, and Penny Dreadful more recently, the series.
Yeah, he went off the screen for a while there.
Came back, yeah. So what were your thoughts on him and his role within the movie?
Oh, look, he's a dreamboat, isn't he? Like,
I love you, Josh.
He's fine. He gets stabbed in the leg at one point and doesn't seem to worry him too much, even though that would have done severe nerve damage.
No, not Josh.
I mean, I've twisted my knee playing soccer, and I've been wearing a leg brace for like a month. So,
But is
you can only imagine
name Josh Hartnett?
Yeah, he's hard, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's just a hard guy.
He's a hard guy.
Yeah, but whatever, he's fine.
Yeah.
He gets, you know, out acted by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh yeah,
quite
for
a bit.
sure. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
he's still developing as an actor.
He is
at this point.
He is. It's early days yet.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like they knew that they would have needed to have the teen characters in this.
Yeah.
Because if you just all been about like Jamie Lee Curtis, that teen demographic might not be familiar with the original Halloween anyway. So
no, that's true.
You've got to like cover both bases there. You've got
That's
to have
right.
the existing.
And like it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because the reason I particularly made reference to The Faculty too was because they both kind of came out at a similar time.
Yeah.
And they both had obviously Josh Hartnett in it, and they were really the point of drawing attention to this young hotshot kid who was going to go places. Did he go places in the end? Do you think?
He never really got above a certain point.
Yeah.
But he was definitely on a lot of teenage girls' walls.
Yeah. So do you think he? Do you think now, though, looking at his career, that he has the chops?
I don't
the
think
acting chops, or do you think he struggles to hit that mark?
I don't think so, and that's probably why the roles did dry up. Because
Okay.
when you do a movie like, what was that one he did with? Was it Hollywood Vice? He did with Harrison Ford.
That's right. Yeah. Golly. That was a turkey.
That was
Yeah.
And, you know, Harrison Ford can do turkeys like
he does, and he can still come out of the back. That's right.
But Josh Hartnett, not so much.
No.
They do. You do get to a point if you're not getting the big, like, awardsy movies.
Yeah.
Then you do kind of peter out a bit, and you can't because he relied a lot on his looks in those kind of early days.
Yeah.
But as he got a bit older, and the same roles he was getting were getting offered to other people, I can see how that things would have dried up for him.
Yeah, for sure.
And now he's taking a different route and going the TV route.
Yeah.
But there's always a new actor, isn't there? But like sometimes they've like I think Zac Efron just seems to be doing the same kind of movies over and over again.
Recently,
he's doing comedy stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think
he's a bit of a bad boy.
He always says he'd like to emulate like Leo's career, but so far it ain't looking good for.
No, I don't think that's gonna happen.
If he's doing Baywatch, I'd probably say that his dreams of winning an Oscar for a Revenant style performance are probably quite far off. Yeah,
He could be more inclined to follow along the career of David Hasselhoff.
But he's just not that funny. Like I guess he's okay, but he's always like the second. He always plays off the funny person in the movie.
Yes,
he's just that person that you bounce off.
Yeah,
and he's just like looks good with his shirt off. But that's kind of like 40% of that. Actually, just Harden doesn't get his shirt off in this, does he?
I don't think so. I don't recall he does.
So
he's often wearing just a school shirt, white shirt. I don't think he ever...
In fact, this Resurrection has one sex scene. Does this...
I think it does.
We just kind of go into foreplay.
Yeah, that's
never
right.
really
It's
go
all a
into
bit
that.
like,
So, what kind of horror movie is this? Really?
Yeah, God damn it. Okay.
Jamie Lee Curtis probably gets the steamiest scene out of...
Yeah, with, what's his name, Alan? Anyway, so let's take a look at some of the other players of the piece. So Michelle Williams will play John's girlfriend Molly in the movie. After appearances in various movies or television vehicles, she would land the role of Jen in Dawson's Creek.
I don't want to wait.
Okay, I thought you were going to carry on then. So before she would then obviously land the role of Halloween in Halloween H20, Williams has since paved an interesting career, always looking for challenging roles that have probably left her cruelly under the radar, in my opinion. She did have a brief outing of recognition as Marilyn Monroe in My Week with Marilyn, however. But we're looking at her way back.
Yeah, well, fucking leaving Hartnett in her dust. She actually has had some awards in movies.
Yes.
And she's got some good ones, still got some good ones coming out too.
Yeah, I think she's got a great career still ahead of her. She's really, what I admire about her is, I don't know if it's her agent or her, but her film choices has always been interesting. She's always, you can tell she's somebody who likes to challenge herself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she always hits note perfect in every film.
Yeah.
But I admire the direction she's going in and the fact that she's, you know, really trying to push her career and
she makes
look at different ways.
She does make brave choices. She's definitely it's funny because it's kind of like reminds you of how Heath Ledger was kind of going with his choices before he passed away, and obviously they used to be together. But yeah, she's definitely one that feels like she's been around forever. Yeah, but she's not really like. She's still quite young. That's right. She's still able to take those roles that like the 20-something like female actors take as well. Yeah, she can get away with playing those because I know it's tough. It's seriously tough for actresses out there. Oh yeah. If once you pass that 30 mark, you just stop getting those roles. Exactly. Whereas guys seem to just they'll be like well into your 40s, you can still play like those characters. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different subject in itself, isn't it? The whole male gaze within cinema. Yeah.
Women aren't allowed to age gracefully on screen.
That's it.
And when they do get plastic surgery to correct that, they get criticised for that as well. Yeah. So it's
a catch-22 though as well, because like, you know, you've got it's the male gaze that enforces that on there, but women equally play a part of that. By trying to conform to that male gaze. I don't know what the answer is. You know, like, to me, like, you just get caught in this vicious circle with it.
It must also be really, really hard for, like, if you go off and have kids, because everyone's like, oh, where'd she go? That's why, like, it's crazy how quickly like, Natalie Portman has come back after having, I think, she had 1 kid or 2 kids. But just she's come back and she's already like getting Oscar buzz for like playing Jackie Kennedy.
Jackie Kennedy, that's right. Yeah.
The odds of that happening, like to come back into the industry, and you know be able to like be offered such an amazing role, it's quite rare.
I mean, it's always the main focus though too, isn't it? Like, you know, it's always like how you get all the magazines and stuff. How I got my body back and blah blah blah. You know, it's this whole pressure on the female image and how it should, in quotes, be pictured on screen, or in the public eye for that matter.
But as you said, this is a whole other separate conversation.
Massively so. Yeah, we're getting very deep from
I don't think either of these films. I don't think either of these films deserve that kind of screen.
No, not at all. All right, so last book on this on the H2O is LL Cool J, as we said, whose music career primarily projected him into the limelight, but the celluloid screen wasn't far behind. A year after doing H2O, he would survive again, as I said, in Deep Blue Sea, before taking on roles in Any Given Sunday, Rollerball, and more recently in NCIS Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And you probably should mention, as we said, the small role of a certain Joseph Gordon-Levitt as the kid sent to investigate a burglary at the beginning of the film, only to come a cropper at the hands of Myers.
He's still got his baby face as well.
Baby face! Yeah. So that kind of rounds out H2O. When we look at Resurrection, I want to talk about the return of Rick Rosenthal, who is the director for this movie. I say return because he was actually behind Halloween 2, the director of Halloween 2.
Right. I thought I recognised his name.
Yeah. So looking at the film and its lack of success, one can't help but feel inclined to look at him. Despite having a plethora of experience directing TV, his film resume's success is somehow lacking when you kind of scrutinise it. You could argue that Halloween 2 was his finest movie to date, still. We look at his movies and you've got Halloween 2, a film called Bad Boys, not The Bad Boys, a different Bad Boys. This was a 1983 release. American Dreamer, Ruskies, Distant Thunder, Nasty Boys. He did The Birds 2, Land's End. A film called Just a Little Harmless Sex. Then Halloween Resurrection. Then he did a film called Nearing Grace. And then in 2013 did a film called Drones. I think
this is not really surprising me that Halloween 2 is the only real.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so my question, I guess, like we haven't really gone into the nitty gritty of what happens in Resurrection, but I think we're both. I mean, I might be speaking for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're in the opinion that it's a pretty woeful film.
It's a franchise killer. Yeah. The actual horror is completely undermined by that gimmicky premise.
Yeah.
Like
So just to remind people that the concept of so once they get rid of Laurie Strode, the film picks up with this kind of this contest where people can enter the Michael Myers house.
But what are they supposed to do there?
And they just got to hang out.
What are they What were they thinking?
It's like Big Brother, isn't it?
It's like a haunted house kind of thing.
In Big Brother. So they got all these cameras geared
and
up.
this is pre-Paris Hilton, and I think they encourage them to be promiscuous and do stuff.
That's it. Exactly.
But this is still the quite early days of the internet. Well, not early days, but it's
Yeah, you're right. It was.
I'd be very surprised if you even now. I think Australian internet speeds wouldn't be quite good enough to watch like a live stream of this magnitude. So I can only imagine how poor it would have been. And then the kids at the party are like watching it on the TV or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, very gimmicky, very very. They must have again like bunch of studio suits just sitting around going, the kids love the internet. Like we need to combine the internet, reality TV, and like horror into one.
Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, you could so picture that ballroom discussion.
Yeah,
and hey, Busta Rhymes is popular. Let's get him in. My kid loves that guy.
Back in the Roaring 20s, like, here, see, I'm making a picture, see. But what? I guess the main question is, why does Michael go back to the house anyway? Is that his thing? Like, once he's completed his mission, kill Laurie Strode. He kills Laurie Strode and then return to the.
Well, it looks like it's if we follow what the movie's saying, right? So he's basically been living actually underneath the house.
Yeah.
Kind of in this.
But what's he going to go back to? Is he going back there to die, or is he?
Just hang out.
Because it's his. It's my fucking house.
Wait till Halloween clicks around again.
Get out of my house. What are you doing here? It's my house.
Yeah. I don't think we can really put too much logic on the plot line of this movie.
It's almost the prologue where we see Laurie Strode die.
Yeah.
Is like it's completely separate to what
happens afterwards. It's a different beast, isn't it? It's a completely different beast. It even changes tone and feel. Yeah. It's like completely.
There's like scenes where Busta Rhymes goes on these huge like rants, and you just like, what am I watching here? Am I watching one of the Friday films, or is this like?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's such a weird, like a little beast. And as you said, it was a franchise killer. And then we will talk about the Rob Zombie films in a future podcast.
Yeah.
But is the reason why they really had to go? What do we do?
Just start again.
Yeah, to start again. How do we go?
And then now they're just like, okay, now we really need to start fresh.
Yeah. I do want to. I'm thinking of in our zombie conversations, we'll talk about where you would take the direction of Halloween, but let's not talk about that now. Let's talk about that in the next one. All right, so let's look at Busta Rhymes and the Forgettable Cast. So
that's what the movie should have been called.
So we got another musician.
That's an honest trailer right there.
Another musician who would step into the fray for Resurrection to try and draw some interest from the youth. Buster would appear in a handful of movies such as Shaft, Finding Forrester, before taking on the role of Freddie Harris, which is, I guess, is a nod to, now I'm looking at the name, Freddy Krueger and Danielle Harris, who played Jamie Lloyd in the Halloween 4, 5 and 6. I don't know if that is or not.
Wow.
Or just pure coincidence. Supporting him would be fellow survivor Sarah Moyer, played by Bianca Kajelich. And there would also be Sean Patrick Thomas, who was in Save the Last Dance, Cruel Intentions, and Dracula 2000. What happened to Sean Patrick Thomas?
I don't know. He was the next Josh Hartnett.
God damn it. We have Thomas Ian Nicholas, who's probably best remembered as playing Kevin Myers in American Pie. And he was also child star in Rookie of the Year.
Oh, mate. So he peaked there.
Yeah. Notably, though, is a certain Katie Sackhoff, who played Starbuck in the new Battlestar Galactica. Currently seen in Longmire, the Western TV series, and also cropped up in Oculus.
There you go.
Which was quite a cool
Not all
movie.
bad news.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And I do want to highlight the fact that she's in this, albeit all the characters are pretty shitty. I just realised as well, I didn't put in, what's the name? America's Next Top Model.
Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks, thank you. In there either. She's in there. What is going on there? It's like, so is this directing? Is this the producers calling the shots and get it completely wrong? Or who do we point the finger at?
Well, there must be no one attached that really gave a shit about the franchise.
Yeah.
Or like protecting the legacy of like the original film or the character, Michael Myers' character.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
at no point did anyone stop them and say, like, I don't think you're doing this for the right reasons. Like, just take Michael Myers out of the movie and, like, really,
anyone could be.
It shouldn't be a Halloween film.
That's true. We've said that before, though. Which one did we say that about with Halloween movies? I forget now.
Well, Halloween 3 for
sure.
sure.
Oh, yeah, of course. That was it. It's not a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. All right, look, I don't know. It just feels like such a mess, we've got these characters, and each of the characters are so are your stereotypes within this. It's like you've got your hardcore kind of biker.
Yeah, you got the muso guy, you got the jockey guy, but yeah, you just wait. I mean, it's one of those things. A lot of the films that came out around this time, a lot of the slasher films, they do make them severely unlikable, and you are just waiting for them to die.
It just gets lazy, though, don't you think? Isn't that lazy writing, though, as well? Like, just to kind of go, right, well, we'll have this guy.
Yeah.
The kids love it. They just want to go and see the murders.
Well, it's the same mentality that reality show producers have. So it's like, they've kind of taken the piss out of themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
But in a bad way.
All right, so let's kind of, just as we kind of come to a close, talk about Michael Myers then. And the kill count, as I have done. So in H2O, he has 7 victims. There's an off-screen death of Jimmy Howe with an ice skate embedded in the face.
Take that.
Woo! Off-screen death of Tony Allegra, I want to say, stabbed in the back with a butcher knife. So they're the 2 kind of teen kids at the beginning. We get our first on-screen kill with nurse Marion Whittington with a throat slit with a kitchen knife. That's a cool little nod for the character there, though, from the first couple of movies, because she was one of the characters within that. So, yeah, kind of cool. Then we get Charles Devereaux, who would die off screen when his throat is slit with a corkscrew. We also get Sarah Wainthropp, who would have her leg crushed by a dumbwaiter before being stabbed in the back multiple times. So she's one of the teen kids. Will Brennan, that's the guy, would be stabbed in the back with a butcher knife, proving that Myers really likes doing it from behind in this film.
It's true.
Yeah. And the last kill would come at the hands of Laurie Strode, believing that she has killed Myers, only to find out that it was the paramedic. So technically 6 kills by the hands of Myers. What do we think of that? Like, so I think we've gone from like something like 17 kills down to like just the 6. Is it good to just kind of keep it short and sweet?
Under 10. Yeah. I think is preferable. I think. Yeah. Otherwise, it loses all impact.
Yeah. Was there a particular kill that stood out? I mean, there's only a couple of on-screen ones on there.
Not really. None of them were ever the way that they were edited together. It never really gets you jumping.
No.
Just because I think the thing is, the music is a full score. Like it was a modern score.
Right. Yeah.
It takes away all the subtlety.
Yeah.
And it also takes away all the suspense as well. Because as soon as you got a pulsating, like almost a chase scene or like an action scene, like you're not really on the edge of your seat. You're just kind of watching it unfold, and it's all it is just gore, but it's not necessarily like.
It is interesting too, like going back to Steve Miner at the hands of this one, because as I said, Friday the 13th and Jason.
Yeah.
And there's a similar kind of thing. Like he's the one that described Jason as Jaws on land.
Yeah.
And so there's that kind of more chase aspect to both of those movies, this and H2O. That you see in it more than, like, I guess the scare factor within it. It is more about the pursuit of the animal or beast, or in this case,
I think the Michael Myers' mystique has
gone.
well and truly gone by this point with previous Halloween films. But I just thought, and he looked weird in this movie. Like his eyes, they must have cut it off.
Yeah, there's different. The mask looks different.
His eye holes are bigger.
Yeah.
So his eyes are like pink. And he's a little.
He's got pink eye.
There's a little too much of the human face coming through there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I thought that too. I don't remember that when I first saw it, but when I was looking back at it, I just kind of. I guess because we're looking at.
They changed it up, and then I think they went back to closer to the original for Resurrection.
Yeah.
which is like the one saving grace of that film.
At least he looks kind of normal. So looking at Resurrection, there's 11 kills in Resurrection. We get the off-screen death of Franklin Monroe by decapitation. Willie Haynes would then have his throat slashed with a butcher knife. Laurie Strode is stabbed in the back with a butcher knife and then dropped off a rooftop. Charlie Albans would have his neck impaled with a tripod leg. That's the camera guy.
That is one sharp-ass tripod leg.
Yeah. Is that a nod? I wonder if that's a nod to Peeping Tom. Are you aware of Peeping Tom?
No.
It's like a Michael Powell movie about a photographer who's a serial killer.
And he gets stabbed with a tripod?
Yeah, that's his weapon of choice. He's got his tripod as a...
You'd have to take the...
Have a chat with...
They usually have rubber stoppers at the bottom
to
prevent such accidents from happening.
It's like, like when you're playing pool, you've got the chalk bit. It's like that. He has to sharpen it every so often. Yeah. Oh, it's blunt.
Yeah.
Have a chat with Miles offline because he is a big fan of Michael Powell films. And
he is. He loves a bit of Powell and Pressburger.
Moving on with the kills, Bill Woodlake would be the next victim, stabbed in the head with a butcher knife. Then we have Donna Chang, who is impaled on a metal pole.
Donna, how could you be so silly?
That's because she got nasty, got busy.
Oh, bullshit.
Jenny Danzig is decapitated with a butcher knife. And then Jim Morgan has his skull crushed.
Are we sure that decapitation was one of the...
Katie Sackhoff decapitation.
Incredibly fake.
Yeah.
Like, almost to the point where I didn't know if it was on purpose.
Because like a ball bouncing.
Well, no, at that point, the characters still will think for a second that it might still be them playing games on them. Yeah, that's right. But in terms of movie fake heads, it was one of the worst I've seen.
It's terrible. Yeah, absolutely terrible. It was really. I thought that at the time, we're supposed to. You're right. At that moment in time, the characters are supposed to believe that everything around them's fake.
Yeah.
And with that head decapitation, the real audience, that looks fake.
Yes.
So the irony in that is quite funny.
Doesn't look any better than the head in Jaws, which was done some 20 years previous.
Oh god, yeah. So Rudy Grimes is then stabbed with 3 butcher knives. So that's Sean Patrick Thomas's character. And the last 2 kills occur off screen. We have Nora Winston hung with a cable with a butcher knife and female nurse at the morgue to round things off. Thoughts on Michael Myers across the 2 as far as his kill count and his impact on screen?
He's kind of just lost. He's a bit bored, isn't he?
Bored.
He's not really creative.
That's why he hangs around down in his little basement under the house because he just doesn't know what to do anymore.
I mean, he does.
Gone are the days. I wish it were 1978. I could go around, kill at ease.
He could take his time with those kills.
Yeah.
He just kind of ran out of ideas.
That's it. So was it? Are we looking at? Is Michael Myers like this in the early part of his career? Was this creating his tableaus of art?
Yeah.
And in his kills.
Yeah.
And has he just lost his muse?
Possibly. Maybe there's that much thought has gone into this film, which I'd be impressed by. He does have a reprise of his mounting onto the door trick.
Yeah.
And then it continues to open said door and walk through it.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't remember which character that. I think it might have been Kevin from American Pie. Or was that?
No, I think it was wasn't that Sean Patrick?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's interesting, isn't it? Like his journey across that, and I think they lose that whole kind of, what was great about those early movies is the whole kind of where he stops and looks at his scene. It's like when the little kids pull wings of insects and stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't even stop to think about it anymore. I mean, I guess that would make sense for the character, but I don't think they put that much thought into it.
No.
But yeah, not really any new exciting deaths here. I don't think in either of the films.
Quick. Gotta get away, Michael's is
the
after
best
us.
one to see on camera would have been the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one, but we didn't even get to enjoy that.
See it. Us getting it. Although you must have had a vague memory of it actually happening.
I guess I filled in the gaps. I don't know.
So maybe he was doing the right job, leaving it to the audience's imagination. So thoughts of the movies and their place in the franchise as a whole. Then looking at H2O and Resurrection, where will you place these as far as?
Oh man, Halloween 5 and 6 are pretty bad, but Resurrection might just be worse. I don't know. And H2O is probably on par with... See, the thing that makes H2O better than the rest is Jamie Lee Curtis's presence.
Yeah, I agree.
So in that regard, it probably ranks like just after like Halloween 2, possibly.
Or maybe even on par with it. You know, could even be kind of almost level with it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we're looking at like in the poster credits of Towering Inferno, Steve McQueen and what's the other guy's like Paul Newman, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where like one's just slightly higher than the other. I think, are we looking at that? I think maybe.
Possibly.
But yeah, look, I think I'm inclined to agree. I'm gonna place Resurrection just slightly above 5. I think 5 is so.
Yeah.
I never got 5. I just found it.
Maybe because I watched Resurrection a lot more recently.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just fresh in my memory a bit more than 5. But
yeah. But I think 6 is better than those two, though. I think 6 only can kind of deserve to be a bit higher than those two.
Okay, yeah, maybe because of Paul Rudd, but I think you could probably lump them all in together.
Maybe you could. Chuck them all on the fire.
Yeah. What I did, Resurrection was like, they literally like burnt down the house.
Yes.
So it's like they've essentially burnt, the franchise has been burnt to like a crisp.
Yeah.
And then Rob Zombie comes along and just pisses on the ashes. Essentially. That's kind of what he does.
Look at me!
That's kind of what he did.
Yeah, man.
Even though he called himself a rabid fan of the series. But
yeah, look, I mean, I guess like, well, you know, is that a good way to end that conversation on this podcast? Maybe it is. You know, because obviously the next discussions we're going to be looking at what Rob Zombie did.
We know what he did, but how did he do it?
How did he do it? How did he go about it?
That's the question.
Did he do it right? Did he do it wrong? I think pissing on ashes could be an interesting look at things. So with that kind of killer note, I think that concludes our special podcast on the recording of Halloween H2O and Resurrection. As I said, keep an ear out for further podcasts as we continue more of our Halloween franchise discussions when we look at Rob Zombie movies in question. Until then, we are Ben Skinner.
Goodbye.
And your humble host, Paul Farrell. Goodbye.
I don't want to wait for my life to be over.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast, the Halloween franchise, the return of Laurie Strode. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.